Ancient Rome had a weapon so deadly it could penetrate armor from 500 yards away, another that rendered enemy shields useless in seconds, and a mysterious bronze device so advanced that modern experts initially refused to believe it was Roman. But what if I told you these weren't even their most ingenious weapons, and the most revolutionary one is something historians are still arguing about today? Rome didn't just conquer the known world because they had more soldiers or braver fighters. They dominated because their weapons were so advanced that some designs wouldn't be improved upon for over 1,000 years. When their enemies still fought with basic tools, Roman engineers were creating weapons with such precise measurements and clever designs that they seemed impossible for their time. In Rome, weapon makers weren't just blacksmiths, they were honored engineers. Generals consulted them before battles. Emperors funded their workshops. The Romans knew something most ancient empires missed. Wars aren't won just by courage, but by technology. One of the most mind-blowing weapons in military history has to be the pylum, a Roman javelin that was deliberately designed to fail. Pick one up, and you'd immediately notice something odd. While the wooden shaft felt solid in your hand, the iron neck was strangely thin and flexible. This wasn't a manufacturing defect, it was pure battlefield genius. This wasn't just a spear. Pick one up, and you'd immediately notice something odd. While the wooden shaft felt solid in your hand, the iron neck was strangely soft and flexible. This wasn't a mistake, it was brilliant design. When a Roman soldier threw a pylum, it flew straight and fast toward enemy lines. The heavy iron tip could punch through shields with a sickening crack. But here's the clever part. Once it hit, that soft metal neck would instantly bend like a piece of wire. The enemy warrior now had two terrible choices: try to fight with a heavy spear dangling from his shield, or throw away his only protection. During Caesar's campaigns in Gaul, entire enemy lines collapsed when faced with volleys of pila. Imagine the panic as thousands of shields became useless in seconds, leaving warriors exposed just as the Romans charged with swords drawn. One Roman writer described the sound of bending metal, mixing with the screams of unprotected men, as a harvest of death. As impressive as the pylum was, it's barely the beginning of Rome's military innovations. Because that strange bronze tube I mentioned, Roman engineers had somehow mastered principles of projectile weapons that we wouldn't see again until nearly 2,000 years later. The evidence suggests they understood pressure systems, controlled explosions, and directed force in ways that should have been impossible for their time. What other military secrets did Rome possess that history has forgotten? While the pylum changed how Romans fought up close, their real genius showed in how they turned entire landscapes into weapons. Let's talk about the castra, not just a camp, but a weapon of its own. Picture this. Your army has chased Roman soldiers all day. They seem to be running away. You plan to finish them at dawn, but when morning comes, you don't find tired men hiding behind trees. Instead, a perfect square fortress stands where empty land was just hours ago. Wooden walls 10 feet tall, a deep ditch with pointed stakes, 4 gates guarded by towers, a complete fort built overnight. This was the castra system, a moving fortress that Romans could build anywhere in just 3 to 4 hours. Every soldier knew exactly what to do. Some dug ditches, others cut trees for walls. Some built roads inside the camp. Like a giant puzzle, each piece fit perfectly, every time. The amazing part? This wasn't just for sleeping. The castra was a weapon that changed how wars worked. Romans could march into enemy lands and create safe spots wherever they wanted. They could control roads, rivers, and mountains by dropping these instant fortresses in key places. During fights with German tribes, Romans built castra forts in forests where enemies thought no army could stay. The tribes would attack at night, expecting to find sleepy soldiers. Instead, they crashed against walls and ditches, while Romans stayed safe inside. But while Romans mastered land warfare, they faced a big problem at sea. Rome wasn't a sailing nation like their enemy Carthage, whose ships were faster and whose sailors had years more experience. How could Rome win battles they seemed certain to lose? Their answer was the Corvus, a bridge that changed sea battles forever. When you first saw it, you might laugh. Just a simple wooden walkway with a big metal spike underneath, sitting on a ship's front. But when Roman ships got close to enemy vessels, the corvus dropped down with a crash. The spike dug deep into the enemy deck, locking the ships together. Suddenly, sea battles weren't about sailing skill anymore. They became land battles on water, and nobody beat Romans on land. At the Battle of Mylae, Carthaginians watched in horror as their 30 ships were caught by the corvus. Roman soldiers poured across the bridges and took the ships one by one. As Rome grew, they found more ways to shock enemies. One of the most frightening was their version of Greek fire, burning liquid shot from bronze tubes that couldn't be put out with water. Imagine standing on your ship's deck when suddenly a stream of fire flies through the air, coating everything it touches in burning liquid. Men jumped into water only to find the fire still burning on top of them. These fire projectors used pressure systems in special containers, technology that helps explain our mysterious bronze tube artifact. The principles of containing pressure and shooting materials were far ahead of their time. But Rome's most amazing weapon combined math, physics, and perfect craftsmanship to create something with deadly accuracy. A weapon so precise, it wouldn't be matched until guns were invented hundreds of years later. Now, let's talk about the ballista, the weapon that truly shows how far ahead of their time Roman engineers were. If you stood on a battlefield and watched this machine in action, you'd think you were seeing something from the future. The ballista looked simple, a wooden frame with two arms connected by twisted ropes, but hidden in this design was math and science that wouldn't be understood again for over 1,000 years. Roman engineers knew exactly how tight to twist the ropes, how long to make the arms, and how to shape the firing groove for perfect shots. These weren't guesses, they used exact measurements and careful math. When fired, a ballista could send a 3-foot iron bolt flying over 500 yards. That's 5 football fields away. But distance wasn't the impressive part. It was the accuracy. Roman soldiers could hit targets as small as a single man from hundreds of yards away. The bolt would fly so fast, you couldn't see it coming. 1 second, an enemy commander would be giving orders. The next, he'd be pinned to the ground by iron that seemed to appear from nowhere. At the famous siege of Alesia, where Julius Caesar trapped the Gallic leader Vercingetorix, Roman ballistae picked off Gallic commanders one by one from incredible distances. Witnesses wrote that Gallic warriors became terrified to stand in the open, never knowing when death might strike from far away. The psychological effect was as powerful as the physical damage. Each ballista needed a team of 4 skilled men to operate. One would aim the weapon, turning wooden wheels that moved it up, down, or sideways with tiny, perfect adjustments. Another would pull back the firing mechanism using a system of gears and cranks that multiplied human strength. The other 2 would load the bolts and help calculate distance and wind. Together they could fire 3 deadly shots per minute, a shocking rate for such a powerful weapon. Most amazing of all was that Romans built these machines to exact standards. A ballista in Britain would use the exact same parts as one in Egypt, thousands of miles away. If something broke, new pieces would fit perfectly. This standardization was unknown in the ancient world and wouldn't be seen again until the Industrial Revolution, almost 2,000 years later. When archaeologists first found the metal fittings and calculations used for these weapons, many couldn't believe they were truly Roman. The precision seemed impossible for ancient times. Some even suggested they must be from the Middle Ages or later. But careful study proved these incredible machines were indeed Roman, showing just how advanced their military technology truly was. The principles used in the ballista, stored energy, calibrated release, calculated trajectories, are the same ones found in our mysterious bronze tube artifact. Both show an understanding of physics that seems impossible for their time. Both demonstrate that Roman engineers had knowledge that would be lost for centuries after their empire fell. But what exactly was that bronze tube, and how does it connect to Rome's most advanced weapons? The answer will surprise you. So what exactly was that mysterious bronze tube device shown in our thumbnail? After years of study, archaeologists believe it was an aeolipile, sometimes called hero's engine. This clever machine used steam pressure inside a closed metal chamber to create spinning motion. While not a weapon itself, it shows that Romans understood the principles of pressure, controlled force, and directed energy. the same ideas that would eventually lead to rocket weapons thousands of years later. When these devices were first found, some experts thought they must be from much later times, the Middle Ages or even early modern era. They seemed too advanced for ancient hands to make, but careful testing proved they truly were Roman. This mistake shows just how ahead of their time Roman engineers really were. The amazing weapons we've explored didn't just win battles, they changed how wars were fought forever. The pylum's bent-neck design influenced weapons for centuries. In World War II, some anti-tank weapons were designed to break inside tanks so they couldn't be removed and reused. The exact same idea Romans had with their javelins. The castra system's rapid-build fortresses are still used today. Modern military bases use the same quick assembly walls and standardized layouts that Romans perfected. When American soldiers build FOBs, forward operating bases, in conflict zones, they're following a 2,000-year-old Roman playbook. The Corvus boarding bridge seems simple, but its principle of turning sea battles into land battles is still used by modern navies. Today's naval boarding teams use specialized equipment to lock onto enemy ships, a direct descendant of the Roman spike and bridge system. Greek fire projectors use the same basic principles as modern flamethrowers. Both create unstoppable streams of fire using pressure systems and special fuel mixtures, and the ballista, its precision targeting, standardized parts, and range calculations are exactly what modern artillery systems still use. The math has improved, but the core ideas haven't changed in 2 millennia. What made Rome's weapons truly special wasn't just clever design. It was how they combined technology with psychology. Their weapons weren't just meant to kill, they were meant to break enemy spirit. The bent pylum made warriors drop shields in panic. The overnight castra fort made enemies feel Rome could appear anywhere. The ballista's invisible death from afar created terror before battles even began. This genius for blending engineering with fear is why Rome dominated for so long. They didn't just build better weapons. They built weapons that made enemies not want to fight at all.